It's always good to be prepared. I'm all people usually prepared, so it's terrible. Anyhow, thank y'all for being here to celebrate Allison Winter. It's been fun evening. We're going to record tomorrow. And the theme of the night is, I've lost pages, but then I know it. So the theme of the night is, there's some fishing lures, or fly fishing on the little thank you, Sherry Hall, for doing all that. And it was funny when, as dads, you always want to take your kids out and teach them something you love. And so I took Andrew out when he was about 6 years old on Gore Creek in Vail, and I thought, I'm going to teach him to fly fish. This is going to be great. And so we go out, and he's slipping on the rocks, and he's not real happy. And all of a sudden, the fly goes under, and he catches this huge fish. And all of a sudden, he lets go of the rod, and it goes away. So the fish and the rod were gone. And I was like, oh my gosh. That's a lie. I'm kidding. That didn't happen. If y'all saw the skinny rod right there, we did take him out. I did take him out on Brook Creek. He slipped so much I had to take him back home. And then I went back out and I got a ticket from the wildlife department because I had a license. So it was just a wonderful time. It was unbelievable. But since that time, he met Allison, and now I get to go out and try to be as good as both of them. And as Andrew says, he might have created a monster. And, so I go out to the Henry's Fork, which is, you know the story. So we put the boat in, and literally we're like here to the table, to the put out, and Allison just drops her fly over, and she catches this like 22-inch fish. It's just gorgeous. It's just, I'm just like, oh my gosh. And so she takes a picture with it. Of course, she's beautiful. She takes a picture of the fish. And then I'm like, okay, we're at the beginning of this trip. We're going all day. I'm like, I'm done. I just got like a ticket in the first thing. But as y'all know, we always marry way over our heads. And as I say, about on your coverage on the hunt. But anyhow, it's amazing that y'all are together. We're so happy for you guys. And it's amazing how God just orchestrates things to be perfect. And we're so happy for you guys. And we're happy to have a young family coming with us. And we're looking forward to seizing the moment with you guys in the future. And it's just humbling to know that we have family and friends here tonight. And you guys, I've said this before, some other things, but lean into God. That's what y'all done, and your family obviously was raised you that way also. And I know that Gary, all 6 of us are very different, but same thing with us. But lean into God, lean into your spouse, your family, your friends, and then He's going to tell us what we need to do and how we need to live life. So because in today's environment, obviously, it's been tough few months for everybody, but it's good to know He's in charge. And we look forward to celebrating you guys tomorrow, and we look forward to the life together. And it's going to be incredible. And He's got great plans for you guys. And everybody wants, as parents, wants their kids to love God with all their heart, soul, and mind. To dream big, to find the endeavors that make them full. Choose a mate that will support them in their dreams. Alan, we're so thankful for you, and you will be Andrew's wife tomorrow, and that the two of y'all will live together forever. And we're excited for everything that's going to happen. My dad and mom are fortunate to be here tonight. My dad's, you may have seen this coming in, I'll take one here, but we'd like to read it. And And so I wanted to read to you all. This is my grandfather, J.W. Carey, 1962. The wealth of a man seems to be measured today by the amount of real money that he's tucked away. It seems to be wrong, but the value is there if we count all our blessings each day we share. I figure my wealth by the friends that I have, my wife, sons, daughters, and children they have. Their love and affection no money could buy. You can't place a value, chooses to try. Our love just grows stronger, it's sweeter each day, and I will enjoy it until I pass away. So this is the wealth that I proudly still hold, and will not give it up for a chest full of gold. It's something to live by. I love you guys. Thank you for being here tonight.
So I just wanted to open with part of an entry from my journal almost 1 year ago. Dear Andrew, it's a few minutes before midnight, December 23rd, and we've been talking about your engagement. You're off to bed and I'm sitting by the fire with such a full heart. You are marrying the girl of your dreams, and our dreams too. I'm not going to get to be your number one anymore, but to be honest, it's a little hard for a mama, but I couldn't be happier that I get to have Allison as a daughter in love and get to have her in our family. She is God's perfect gift to you, and I know you will share a lifetime of wonderful together. Isn't Jesus so, so good? Andrew, I've loved being your mom. The important things haven't changed since you were a little boy. You were the sweetest, most affectionate child, full of life, adventure, and fun, who always liked to talk. I'm pretty sure you learned to talk way before you learned to walk. Michael did all the walking, well, actually running, while you did all the talking. You were creative and happy, hardworking, loyal, generous, kind, and so loving. You make wise choices, well, most of the time. And you made great friends. I would say all of this is still true today. Look at this room filled with all of your friends and people you love. I will always cherish my memories of shooing you to sleep. I can still feel your head nuzzled up so tightly on my neck. I will always remember the way you loved to throw the ducks, and the way you would run into my arms when I walked into a room, and the sweet way you would say, "Won't you, mommy, won't you?" Or you would say, "Kiss my Elmo, I got an owie." Watching you grow and become your own has been such a joy. You continue to live life to the full with humble obedience and devotion to your Lord. You draw people to yourself without even trying. They are attracted to Jesus in you, and you love them so, so well. Allison, Matthew 6:22 says, your eyes are a window to the soul. I will never forget the time I met you. You smiled that great, big, gorgeous smile, and your eyes reflected your beautiful spirit like a light from within. Allison, you are so easy to love. You are honestly the kindest, most gentle, and humble soul in the whole wide world. You are dainty and poised and elegant. Your boisterous laughter is contagious, and your sincerity offers acceptance and security. As beautiful as you are on the outside, you are more beautiful on the inside. Thank you, Jesus, for giving us teeny, tiny, big Al. We love y'all a lot. Anybody that would like to say anything, I can give them the microphone. We do want to ask that you keep it COVID friendly. I'm not sure what that looks like.
Okay, well, I'm weeping already, so sorry about that. I'm the girl that people make fun of during the rehearsal dinner. I call that girl was weeping. But I just wanted to kick things off by thanking Mom and Dad. This is beautiful. But I want to start with Andrew. The most unique thing about Andrew is that he's the leader of our family. And I know that my dad is too, but it's really cool to see him and my younger brother really set the bar high. He cares, and it's something that's so unique about him. Whether it's me or a friend, and most importantly, the Lord. People often ask, so who are you closest with? And I always get giddy because I'm like, well, I'm close with all of them, but it's really fun how stages of life have kind of, evolved and how I've been close with each and every one of them at different times. So my thought here is, when I talk about Andrew, we were just family of two for quite some time. I actually asked my dad how much we budgeted for, how many kids were you thinking we were gonna have, and held up the number 2. So it's really supposed to be us 2. No, I'm kidding, we got the bonus. I talk about how as a kid, he just is so nurturing. He has that really caring soul. And high school, we were 4 years apart. I'm wearing eyeliner under my eye, straightening my hair up straight. We're kind of going our own ways, and college hit. And that nurturing, caring soul came out of the woodworks again, and I felt like we were the most close we've ever been during college, which was a really unique time. Because I was 18, you were 22? And I felt so cared for. I was so important. He texted me, huh? You're 3 years apart. Whatever. Mom, go with the story. Anyways. He's a senior in college. I'm a freshman, and I just have never felt so cared for in my life. I was so cared for, and I just appreciate that about you. And Allison, like my mom said, is a bright light. I don't want to cry so much. And she was on pom when I was on cheer. Older than me, I always looked up to you. There was this one specific trip that we went on that we hate and loved at the same time. And it was on Easter, so we had to spend our Easter in Boston together. And she looked at me and we hopped off the bus and she goes, "You going to church? We're going to go to Easter service?" And I thought, "Oh, we are? You know where to go?" And we went to this church, and I still have the pamphlet from the church because I kept it in my Bible. And this is how I pray for them. But it's obviously scripture about Easter and Jesus rising from the dead and just everything. And I think at the end of the day, it's like the Lord is faithful. And I love you, and I love you, Andrew. And I've never, people ask me too, is it weird? It's boy, girl, boy, girl, but you're kind of missing something. I'm like, yeah, an older sister. And you are that for me in so many ways. I love you. All right, anyone who's not a crybaby, can come up.
Okay, I don't know if I'm gonna cry, but obviously I love y'all so much, and I want to talk about things that I love about Andrew and I. So first I'm going to start off with Andrew. Being so, obviously I'm the youngest and Andrew's the oldest, and I always got stuck with Andrew babysitting me. And honestly, it was my favorite but least favorite thing when I was younger, because Andrew wouldn't let me do anything. He would not let me eat anything, do anything. And I remember one time I was crying and I was like, "Andrew, I'm so hungry, just let me eat a banana, please." And he was like, "No, you might choke. You cannot." Please, it's a banana. I can't choke on a banana. And it just also reflects of who you are. And like Elizabeth was saying, you're such a caregiver, and I love that about you so much. And growing older, we've become closer, and I feel like we've also become closer because of Al. Al and Andrew have always invited me on their dates, and they've taken me horseback riding, they've taken me fishing, they've taken me to all these different things, and I've just always felt so included, and I just love that so much. And another thing is when I was really little, Andrew always wanted to hold me. And like, he wanted to be in charge of me and hold me and love on me. And like, that just shows a lot about Andrew. So yeah, I love you, Andrew. And then Al, I love you so much, and your laugh, and also just to have another sister. And like, Elizabeth and I are a lot alike, but we're also a lot of different. And I feel like Al and I have like a lot in common, and we just bond on that. And I've always felt so included by you, and I've literally can't count the times I've called you crying, being like, I need help with this is going on in my life, please help me with advice. And you've always been so calm and collected, and been like, always knowing what to say to me, and been so good at giving me advice and like leading me in that. And I also love, like, we dance together all the time. You taught me Wabash, like, I mean, and I do that every day at practice, and it's all because you taught me it. And you're just such a lovely lady, and like, I look up to you and Elizabeth. Like, I have the best people to look up to, and I'm so thankful for that. I'm also thankful for y'all and y'all's relationship, and I won't ever forget when Andrew was taking so long to ask you to marry him. Like, on the daily, I would send Andrew a text, be like, hey, you know, she's coming in town, like, let's do it. And then he just would not, and I would get really mad at him. And like make jokes at dinner, being like, oh yeah, you know, would it be a better gift than a Christmas gift? A ring. But you guys, so I'm really happy you guys are getting married. But you guys have really showed me on what I should look for in a relationship, and how I should act as a lady, and like what guy I should look for in a guy, and like, I'm so thankful to have that, and y'all, so I love y'all so much, y'all are the best.
Thanks, Big Mike, I appreciate that. So full disclaimer, I'm definitely not gonna live up to either of those speeches, but I'm gonna do my best. Allie, I wanna start with you. I've looked up to you my entire life for a lot of reasons, but I'd say the most important thing to me is how well you love others and how you represent Jesus' love. And I just think that's really important, and I think it's driven my life for a long time. There's a lot of things that I could say about you that intimidate me, and that have intimidated me for a long time. You've always been just a fantastic older sibling for us. You've always, you know, just cared for us and loved on us. And having someone to look up to like yourself is, it's been amazing. And Andrew, you're a ridiculously good fly fisherman. I remember the first time Andrew, Allie, and I, Charlie was there as well, we went fly fishing, and I think I lost probably 7 or 8 of your flies. So, and he just kept, you know, he kept loading them up for me. So I'm like, I'll lose your whole tackle box if you want me to. All I've wanted for my sister my whole life is for her to be with a guy who cares for her and who loves on her well. And I just think you do a really good job of that. And I couldn't be happier that you guys are going to spend the rest of your lives together. And you've always, you know, from day one, you were just a bro. You were always there. And, you know, starting out, I didn't know you well, but, you know, you were someone who, you know, you'll be my brother-in-law tomorrow, but I feel like you've been my brother-in-law for a while now. So I couldn't be happier for the both of you guys, and the way that you guys lead and love other people well, I would say is the most special thing about both of you. So, salute. Cheers. Thanks.
Charlie, you're up.
Well, I'm actually impressed, Andrew. I think you did a good job. I was like, I'd really like to follow him up. I know he's going to flub it real bad. I gotta say, you did pretty good. Well, Allison, obviously, I love you very much, and I couldn't be happier for you. You know, a lot of people in their life can get off track, and being a younger brother, you know, I was definitely not as straight arrowed as you were. And of course, I had amazing parents, and mom tried really hard, but always didn't succeed. But it's very important that when you're going off the path, I always had you, because you were the one who was on that path, and I knew where to go. It always made it easy for me to find my way. And I can't thank you enough for that, and I definitely would not be where I am now without you. So I'm very thankful for that. Andrew, you know, there's one thing I'm not super happy about this whole deal, because I'm not the best fisherman in the family now. And you're not either, because Big Al's got us both beat. So every time we go fishing, it's like, Charlie, you know, get off the bluegill, Allie's bringing in a state record or something. So, you know. But I'm, you know, as the brother right under your older sister, you want everything for your sister to find the right guy. And I've got full confidence that she did. I really think that you're an outstanding guy. You've got a great group of friends. I've had an awesome time meeting all of them, and have nothing but good things to say about you and your family. So with that, cheers to forever together, and love you both. Anybody? Chelsea, come on.
Come on, Kelsey.
No, I'm just kidding, though.
Yeah, sorry, Gentry, sit down. I'm Stanton. I was friends with Andrew in college, but only briefly because I was a senior and he was a freshman. But it's good to be here and friends as equals now. Al, I love you, obviously. First off, I want to thank Rogan for making this all possible. Thank you for your service. Sorry. Also, Andrew, I want to take this opportunity to apologize and say you were right about moving to Carbondale. It was a good idea. It didn't result in you and Allison breaking up like I had thought. And on behalf of Ferg and I, we both apologize. And wish you guys the luck in your mountain lifestyle. But on a real note, you guys have been the most life-giving friends to me. And 2020 kind of gets a bad rap. But in this book I'm reading, it's better than pretty much every year in the 14th century. I mean, all of those way worse than this one. But you guys really have been the most encouraging, life-giving friends to me this year. And I can never repay you, hope for many, many more. You guys are right up there with Otto and Doak as my best friends. So, to the Garys.
What's going on? So I'm Gentry, and I have the unique good fortune to be one of Andrew's best friends all growing up, and mostly growing up, one of his chubby friends, as you probably saw in the video. So it's kind of what Andrew referred me to as in when we were growing up. But really, Andrew, I could say a million things. I could probably tell a million stories from all our time together, growing up and then at UT. But really what I want to focus on is just how you've just loved people so well and been such a great friend to me and everyone else, and how you've been so easygoing, thoughtful, and loving to everyone around you. And really the main thing I think about when I think about that is when we were, I guess, in second grade and I was moving to DC, you and the Garys put together a going away party for me and got this hat signed by all of our friends and gave it to me. And it was your idea to do that, and just so I would have something to remember when we were in DC. And I still have that hat, and it's probably the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me. And and yeah, to this day, that's probably the nicest thing any 8-year-old's ever done for another 8-year-old that I can think of. But the other thing I really admire about you, Andrew, is your willingness to just be outgoing and easygoing. And when we were in college and you just said, hey, you want to go drive to 11 different states in 8 days and just like drive around the Southeast, I was like, sure. And so we just jumped in the 4Runner and just couch surfed in Alabama and Tennessee and Florida. And it was just us two and John David for a second until he decided to go to grad school, but that was a whole different part of the story. And God bless John David. And so we just spent, I don't know, probably 30 hours in the car together, never needed a podcast, never needed music, and we just cruised along, and you taught me how to fish, and we found blue water, and it was just a special time. So those are kind of some of my favorite memories of Andrew and just your easygoing, loving nature. And Al, I can't, express how grateful I am that Andrew found someone like you. I was pretty worried there for a while that Andrew was going to do nothing but fish for the rest of his life. He got really good at it, but I was getting a little nervous. And, my nerves were eased were when we were at the ranch with Al, and I was like, Marge, Andrew's going to fish the whole time. Like, I don't know what Al's going to do. And we look out at the pond, and Al's out there every morning, all day, every night with Andrew, catching bigger fish than Andrew, and way, into it. And so we were pretty confident that y'all were going to be all right. And so anyways, we just love you guys a lot. We love getting to know y'all as a couple over the last couple of years and are excited for all the years to come. So here's to the Garys, and love y'all a lot.
Hey guys, my name is McLean, and I've had the pleasure of being close friends with Andrew since freshman year of college when we were both dry pledges together at SIGEP. He was a much better dry pledge than I was, certainly. And something that I've always loved about Andrew and I, our relationship, we always talk about how we're still the puppy dogs in our group of friends who don't have it quite figured out, and that Matt Ferguson is often our father, who we both respect and go to for advice, but also want to hide our shame from. And what I've always loved about our relationship, first, is we would be the best and worst influences on each other. And as far as the worst influences on each other, it was very tame by most people's standards. The first time I ever had any sort of tobacco product was because of Andrew Gary. And don't worry, it's not that bad, because what we did is we took just a fistful of what's called Big League Chew, which is a bubblegum brand aimed at children, chewed as much as we could, and then put a little bit of chewing tobacco in that. And even that was like too much for me. And I was like, like I thought Andrew was really cool to just like really be just getting a big old thing on the side, which was also still mostly bubblegum. But at the same time, Andrew, through a lot of my low points, has been there consistently. The times that I most needed someone there for me, Andrew was there without judging. The time that I was the only person in our pledge class that was a dry pledge that stopped being a dry pledge, Andrew was the person cleaning me up. Andrew was there for me when I needed someone, when I pretended I didn't. And we, as puppy dogs, have grown up quite a bit, but we still like to pretend that we haven't. And I have always admired your, it's hard to quantify. I think everyone knows what I'm saying when I think it's hard to put into words the way that Andrew lives, the way that Andrew genuinely doesn't go about life like anyone else here. He takes what he's interested in and passionate about and makes it and integrates it into his life more than anyone I've ever met. That it's not a hobby, it's not a side project, it is as much a part of him as anything else. And that goes for his faith, that goes for what he cares about as in fishing and all these other things. And I've always admired him so much for that. And seeing the passion and the integration and how he brings that into his life, it was so cool to see how Alec went into that. And I remember the first time I really heard about Allison was Andrew calling me and asking me, hey, is this a good idea? This is date number 2. I think I'm gonna fly her to Colorado. We're gonna go on a long horseback ride, because she loves horses and I hate horses, but don't tell her that. And it was like this whole weekend, and I remember just being like, God, that seems like a terrible idea for a date. But like, if anyone's gonna pull it off, Andrew's gonna pull it off. And I remember talking to Matt. Matt and I were like, God, this just seems like a bad idea. And then I remember as soon, it was like, you know what? Andrew should do it. Like we should support him. That's exciting. We should let it happen. And I remember the call that I got after made me so certain that it didn't only go well, but that they were going to get married. The way that Andrew talked about her, not because they kissed in the snow at the grill, not just because of that, but the way that I know it's so easy to know when Andrew's so certain about something. That there's something about him that when Andrew knows something, you know it, and you know that he cares about it. And from day one, he cared about me. And I didn't even have to meet you to know oh, I should probably get to know her because I'll know her the rest of my life because I'm not going away and Andrew's not going away. And lo and behold, she is just an incredible, loving, caring person that fits into all the cracks that Andrew has. Not that you have a ton. I am so happy to be here today supporting y'all because you are the team that everyone here wants to support. You guys are incredible. We love you immensely and we couldn't be happier.
Hey, I'm David. I roomed with Andrew in college. So you might say that Andrew's going to get a significant upgrade. Andrew was a tremendous roommate. And I'm so grateful that he was in my life. And like McLean was saying, Andrew teaches you kind of how to live. He teaches you how to be present and enjoy things every day. Some of the best days of my life were spent with Andrew Gary. Whether it was out on the USS or on a trout stream in Colorado or whatever it might be. Some of the fullest, most peace-giving, soul-caring days were with Andrew Gary. And he also did things for me that only a brother would do. So there was a point in my life when I was very concussed, and I got back to the house at probably 1 or 2 in the morning, and it's like pouring rain outside, and I couldn't drive. And I get upstairs, and I somehow can remember that I'd left my car in the parking lot at school, and it was going to be towed if somebody didn't go get it. And I think Andrew had a test the next day, and he got up in the pouring rain, and he went and got my car. And my car is no picnic to drive either, back in college. And it also isn't fun to drive when it runs out of gas. So, but he did things like that for me. And I also remember when he started going on dates with the lady, with the girl. He talked to other girls in college. He did, and they always kind of came back to the same conclusion at the end of those talkings, in which we concluded that those girls just weren't very nice back, I hated those girls. So, I just remember him calling me and telling me about Allie, and being like, it's just so nice. She's nice back. And you really are, Allie. You're the sweetest girl, and I'm so happy for y'all. And I guess I learned a really valuable lesson this week, that you shouldn't ever pass up an opportunity to tell people what they mean to you. And Jay and Carrie and Andrew and Allie will mean a whole lot to me. And all the pancake breakfasts and fajita dinners and listening and picking me up after surgeries and loving on me meant a whole lot to me. And I'm really grateful for both.
I'd like you to go first because I'm still thinking about the dry pledge comment. Really struggling with that whole dry pledge comment. Don't put it up yet. Okay. Dry pledge. I don't want to steal her thunder, that's why. That's going to be it right there. Pull it off. That's great.
Bigger?
That was perfect. Literally perfect.
All right, I think that's going to be the trick.
Here you go.
Me?
You started.
Okay, well, if nobody knows, I guess some of you know, I set up Andrew and Allison. I'm the mastermind behind this, and so it's a very proud moment for me that they're moving into. And, round of applause, thank you for stepping involved in the back. But we were on that travel trip I was talking about, the one we loved and hated. And Allison and I were in a bus, and we were on our way to, some basketball game that kept winning, and we kept really hoping they would lose so we could go home. And I reached over her seat. I was right behind her, and I said, "Hey, if you and your boyfriend at the time ever break up, you should date my brother." And then I literally sat down with the biggest sulk of Gary guilt, and I was like, I cannot believe I just said that. So out of character for me. Then she hops back over and looks at me and goes, "Who's your brother?" I said, "His name's Andrew." She's like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I think I met him." She's on Instagram, looking him up. I'm like, okay, play cool. As she's with her other boyfriend at the time. So, Allison is, like I said, very caring, just like Andrew, and was very invested in me even when she graduated. And so she'd always check in from time to time, ask me how cheer was, school was, etc. There was this one specific time that she texted me and said, "Hey, Elizabeth, hope it's all is well," just in like a novel at the end. "By the way, met one of Andrew's friends at a wedding and he said we should go on a double date, LOL. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, the tiger is striking. This is my opportunity to set them up. So, Andrew, months later, I think it must have been 4 months later, is like, "Hey, I'm coming in for Thanksgiving and got an extra ticket and I think I'm gonna take Vandy," and, starts listing some of his girlfriends out. And I was like, "Yeah, that's fine, like totally, you should do it." I go, "But what you really should do is ask Allison Young to go." And he's like, "You think?" I was like, "Oh yeah, for sure." He's like, "How do I do it? She doesn't even know me." I was like, "Oh, she knows me. I think she'll know." So I just he kind of blows it off. So I just went ahead and just texted him randomly, just her contact with our cute picture on it or whatever. And he's like, hey, I think I'm gonna ask for the game. I'm like, "I think it's a great idea." So he calls her, takes her to the game. She can't go because she has to work. So he asked one of his guy friends to come in. He's in Waco, he's almost to Austin from Dallas. And she calls Andrew and says, "Hey, I got off work, I'm headed to Austin." And he's like, "Oh crap." Okay. He's like, "I gotta reach out to my other buddy and say, hey bro, you gotta turn around, I got a hot date." He goes, "Hey, no, Andrew, I'm already in Waco, I'm wearing my UT vest, we're going to the game." Andrew calls me, he's like, "Oh God." I said, "Well, just get her another ticket." She said yes. So he buys another ticket, they end up sitting 3 of them, Andrew's friend, Allison, and Andrew. And anyways, the game ends, they had a great time, and I think they're hitting it off, so I decide to ask Allison to sleep over. I'm like, "Oh, stay at my parents' house, we'll have a great time." Anna Grace is in on it, yada, yada, yada. Anyways, so from there, the story goes on, and Brett's gonna take the rest of the heat here.
From there, as much as Jay is really right, and he always is, because he's Jay Beard, he's perfect. And he knows that the Lord brought them two together. God still uses broken vessels like Elizabeth and I, and it's just wonderful. It's really endearing how he uses us sometimes. Well, I find out from Andrew that he went on this date, and it was really good, which was awesome, And he said that she had mentioned that she always wanted to ride horses in the snow. So this is the real story that McLean brought up. And I thought to myself, being a mentor that I am, and I just really cared so much for Andrew, I wanted to teach him this lesson about creating win-wins. Because you need to create win-wins in your life, right? Things should be win-wins. And I told Andrew, you should fly her to Colorado. And he goes, really? That's great. That's aggressive for a second date. And I go, no, dude, that is epic. I mean, you can go out on this date. It's just going to be so good. And you can take her horseback riding in the snow. God, you can't even make this stuff up. And he's like, that's a terrible idea. There's no way I'm doing that. That's what he said, no doubt. And so a couple days later, I get a call and he goes, I did it, dude. I bought the tickets. And my first reaction was,
I just have to chime in here. I told him it was a horrible idea. I was like, I think I would say definitely no if someone asked me to do that. Continue.
And I found out later that Allie thought it was really strange and she never did anything like that, ever. And so he says yes, and my immediate reaction, that was stupid, dude, don't do it, it's not gonna work. And he's like, you can't say that now. And I was like, oh yeah, I can. And so he's mulling over this, and Andrew overthinks everything, which is awesome for me at this point. And he's thinking through this, mulling over it, and the week comes that she's coming, and it's Monday. And he goes, she's coming on Friday. Dude, what if this doesn't work? And I'm thinking to myself, this is a win-win. Not for him, for me. If it's terrible, that's awesome. This incredibly awkward weekend that he has with this girl he has to pick up in Denver and drive her 2.5 hours I'm laughing uncontrollably at my house thinking, this is the best thing ever. And if it's great, look what would happen. I mean, that's a Ralph Lauren picture. It's not even real. And so he calls me on Wednesday. He's more and more nervous. Don't be confused. Andrew's a cool cat, and he's the greatest guy ever. And I love Andrew, but he is nervous. Friday comes. He's driving to Denver, and I'm telling him, turn around. It's going to go terrible. And so literally, he's like, my stomach hurts. This is not okay. And I just egged it on. I'm like, this is going to go really bad. What is she going to say? What are you going to say for 2.5 hours? And Andrew doesn't talk nonstop. So I'm like, this could not be any better for me in my life. Well, he calls me later that weekend. It was on Sunday. And he's like kissing her in the snow by the grill, cooking steaks. And he sends me this photo. And I thought to myself, that's a better win than him being miserable the whole time. And so it really is their whole thing was really about me. It wasn't about them at all. I didn't really care. And I can't really say that formally tomorrow when I do the wedding. So I had to, really be honest tonight. I just didn't feel good tomorrow as I stood up and shared, But I really will tell you, it makes me laugh because I said, take a risk. That would be an incredible idea, and never thinking that he would buy those 2 tickets. I really didn't. And I'm a risk taker. I did not think he would take it, and I'm so glad he did. And I told him 1,000 times, Allison, marry this girl now. Hurry up and do it, right? Hurry up and do it. And I get the privilege of doing so many things, but I am so excited with these 2. They're really wonderful, incredible people. So it's really good. But Andrew didn't know what he was doing at all.
I have to chime in here, because Andrew had come to me asking if it was a good idea, and I was like, dude, no, this is a horrible idea. He's like, all right, you're right. He's pacing my bedroom. He's like, you're right. But maybe Brett thought it was a good idea. I was like, Brett thought it was a good idea? Anyways, he's like, I'm gonna go around and drive and think for a while. I was like, yeah, do that. He calls me, he's like, hey. I was like, hey. He's like, I'm in the car. I was like, cool. He's like, I just called her. I said, you called her? He goes, yeah, but she didn't answer, but I left a really cool voicemail. I'm just like, hey, come back. Next thing I know, she says yes. He's sitting with me on the sofa, and we're trying to Facebook her birthday. We're like, what's her birthday for the ticket? I don't even know her middle name. Anyways, like Brett said, super happy it worked out, and it's crazy how God works. Definitely a big wink, I would say.
That's perfect.
Hey, my name is Clark, and I had the privilege of living with Allison for the past 2 years in Dallas. So I actually got to know Andrew first. I was his boss at Frontier Ranch, and he quickly informed me I was not his boss. I was going to be his friend and let him get away with anything he wanted to. We struck up a quick friendship. Brett and I were his bosses, but I also got a phone call from Andrew when he was going to the airport to pick up Allison. Was asking me for kind of sister advice about whether it was a good idea. And I didn't know her, and I'm so glad it worked out because he connected us when I moved to Dallas, and Allison and I got to live together for the past 2 years. So Andrew, my note to you tonight is I just wanted to give you a little 101 tips on living with Allison. So just buckle up, people. Okay, number 1, she's always, if you're living in a city where she's going to a big place to go work, she's gonna have some heels on. And you're gonna hear them every morning, and it's gonna sound like this as they walk by your room. Always, without a doubt. She's gonna look good, but it's gonna be loud. Number 2, the fridge always needs to be stocked with these things. Tillamook cheese, some tortillas, rosé, sparkling water, Diet Coke. Just stick with the five main essentials. In the pantry, there needs to be noodles and macaroni and cheese. That's all. Then for dinner every week, she'll either have a combo of something in the fridge, or she'll have take out Chick-fil-A, take out Chinese, or Chipotle. That's just how Al rolls. Another thing I learned about Al quickly was we started to get to know each other living together, and I would sometimes hear these screams of, "Clark!" And I would like go in there and think somebody had like broken into our house, and it was like a cockroach on the floor. Not a big fan of cockroaches. So get ready to kill a bunch of those. A couple other things about Al that you'll love is that she can sleep really hard. And sometimes you'll walk in her room and she had a queen, and she's like spread out like this. And you're like, Al, Al, Al. And she's just like so dead asleep, just spread out eagle with like her face in the covers. And you're like, did she die? Do I need to wake her up? Like, I don't know what's going on. But she also is very kind to all neighbors. Al and I had the privilege of living in Carrie's mom's apartment, and it was kind of the hot spot for divorcees and widows of Dallas. And so the median age was like 70, and then there's me and Al. And we got to know them really well, and they became our good friends. We had Vicky, we had Trisha, we had Janice, we had some sweet friends. Allison, they always wanted to talk and tell about their lives, and Allison would sit there and listen, and I would hide inside and just laugh as I listened to their conversations. But some other things about Al that I loved that I did not know were in store for me was a dear, dear friend who we walked through a lot of ups and downs together, and we watched a lot of Gilmore Girls together. We ate a lot of Chick-fil-A together, but we also loved each other and challenged one another and cared for one another really well. And so, Andrew and Allison, I love y'all, and I'm really excited for this for y'all. And this is my prayer for y'all as you go into marriage, is out of Ephesians 3, and it says that I pray that you two, being rooted and established in love, may have power together with all the saints to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Jesus for you, and to know that love that surpasses all knowledge, so that you may be filled to the measure of the fullness of God. And that's my prayer, and I'm so excited for tomorrow that it's here, and that it's finally, we made it, and you're gonna become Miss Gary tomorrow. So cheers to Andrew and Allison.
So I'm John, this is my wife Kate, and we live in Carbondale. We moved there about the same time as Andrew. None of us knew each other. Then, I met Andrew through, started fishing together, seeing how early we could leave work to go fish. And then Andrew actually introduced me and Kate. We were skiing one day and he said, hey, we're going to dinner, and this girl Kate I work with is really cool, you should talk to her. I later learned that I was one of two guys he said that to that night. But it worked out. I think Carrie actually, kind of egged him on a little bit, so I owe you for that one. And then, of course, we met Al, and her being there was just like the sister and best friend that Kate needed, and that was so wonderful for us. And then Andrew actually married us in May. It was just our parents and siblings, and Andrew and Al, which was super special. And he did a great job. Kate's walking down the aisle. I'm trying to hold it together. I turn to look at Andrew, he's just bawling. And then, she finally gets up there, and he takes a deep breath to start his speech and says, well, I guess I was supposed to say, all rise. And so we're just, it's been such a blessing to have you guys as friends. And as everyone has talked about today, just knowing you two and having the privilege to be your friends is just, I think, giving us just a small glimpse of what Jesus' love is for us, and the love that you guys show us and everyone. And we're just so lucky to be your friends, and we love you guys.
And I'm not allowed to talk because, like Elizabeth, I'm a crybaby. So I was so thankful when Andrew came because he loved fried chicken, bourbon, and college football in a small town, Colorado. And I have Al, who loves fried chicken, rosé, and college football. So, love you guys.
Hi, my name is Alexandria, but also known as Vandy, as called out by Elizabeth. And I just wanted to tell you, Allison, that it was inspiring to know you in college. All of the things that you handled with grace, school, tried out, all the things. It was inspiring to know you in college. It was like Allison would walk by and it was like, oh my gosh, there she goes. She's beautiful, she's nice to people. How does she do it? And knowing you after college, it was the same. I've always loved being able to call you and you have the best advice and you're always calm and you always have a smile on your face and it's so wonderful to spend time with you. And I've been reminded of how that's true this last week, seeing how you've handled everything that's happened to you. You have been calm, cool, and collected with the eye on the prize, Andrew. And it is, once again, I'm thinking, how does she do it? I'm so proud to be your friend and to see the way you've handled everything. Thank you to the adults in the room that have made this weekend happen. I know it's not easy. Andrew, I'm proud to be your friend too. I'm mostly proud of the time that I made you wear penguin pajamas to a bar on 6th Street and you didn't complain. And I'm also proud of how good of a friend you are and to be able to be called one of your friends. You're really good at asking questions, you're really good at showing up for your friends. And one of the questions I remember Andrew asking a lot in college that always intimidated me was, if you're in really big trouble, who do you call? Like, you're about to have to do something and you have to call someone to be your backup. You get one phone call, who are you gonna call? And I always thought that this question was a little bit like leading the witness, like, are you gonna tell me you're in big trouble? Are you gonna tell me that I have to pick you? Like, what is the point of this question? And I remember the prompt got like a little more intense each time, but every time I remember thinking that you have to ask this question and everybody answers you, right? Because as evidenced by all the speeches in the room, Andrew is the most loyal friend who shows up for everyone, and I couldn't imagine anyone saying the answer was anyone but you. But then you started dating Allison, and I think that's even more true, that together, the two of you are such a team that I can't imagine if anyone gets one phone call on who's gonna help bail them out, that it would be anyone but you and Allison. As a team, you work for each other and with each other more than anyone else, and it's just the sweetest thing to see. And I'm really glad that I get to count you as the top of my list of friends to call when I'm in trouble. And I can't wait to stand beside you as you become a team forever. Cheers.
Hi. I didn't really think that I was going to feel compelled to get up and speak, but honestly, after seeing Vandy get up, I just had this moment that I just felt like I needed to. So here I am with a microphone. I've always loved a microphone, from karaoke to just about anything. So hi, I'm Stephanie Golick. I just feel overwhelmed with love just to be here tonight. And I live in New York, so I just want to say that I've been affected with COVID and whatnot in another level, and I respect everyone where they're at, but more so, I just feel so blessed just to get up here and talk to you guys tonight. And more so, I will start with you, Andrew. Like, I am one of 3 girls, so I have just crazy sisters. There's like, you probably know Sydney Golick, she's crazy. But I went to UT, I was a Kyo, and I feel like I made Elizabeth go Kyo. I kind of remembered that very well. Anyways, I never had a brother, and Andrew was that brother to me in so many ways. And I think that the biggest thing that I've just been thinking about when coming to travel here was that in my loneliest hour, my senior year of college, Andrew met me there. And he was the truest friend that I could have ever asked for. And I lost my dad. I didn't think I was gonna get emotional, I'm sorry. I lost my dad pretty shortly after that I left college, and Andrew was there for me. And I just met Brett Rogers by the bathroom, because I remember when Andrew contemplated this psycho date. I so remember that so vividly, and maybe he was in the car when he was thinking of this. And I was like, dude, I don't think so. I don't think this is a good idea, but you know what? I'm wild. And I know that about myself, and my dad taught me to live fiercely and wildly and to just love people around me. And Andrew and Allison, you guys do the exact same. You love people fiercely and wildly, and I think that's what I admire about you both the most, is your adventurous spirit and how you're just gonna go out there in life and continue to chase after people in that way. And you're gonna live that way, and you're gonna live absolutely crazy, because you're crazy. And we all know that, because never forget that when we graduated college, he moved to Hawaii, and we all had to work as assistants, and he was in Hawaii. So, no one has mentioned that tonight, but I very much remember that. I was like, I'm in New York City, and he's in Hawaii, so okay. But I think that's just a testament to you guys. And I think that that's the most amazing thing about you guys, is that you live the way that Jesus lived, and he just touched everyone that he was around. And I just thank you for letting us all be a part of it, and to just all touch and just remember that every day is just the most beautiful gift, and that we get to be a part of your gift tomorrow. So thank you for letting me be a part of that.
For those who don't know me, I am David Min, and apparently Andrew and I go way back. Our grandparents are dear friends, and so when I started at UT the same year as Andrew, I was told, okay, you've got to meet the Dry Pledge at SIG Abbey and Andrew Gary. And so when we had our mixer, I beelined, and I said, point me to Andrew Gary, and I came up and I was like, apparently I need to meet you, and he in his Andrew fashion was like, cool, hey. And so I was like, all right, nice to meet you. But that was really the start of something I'm very thankful for. We've just had such a fun experience in college, and I was blessed to go through college with Andrew and get all of the fun experiences that entailed, and everything that everyone has talked about. Just such a caring friend, and honestly such a goober. And then I got the pleasure in Dallas of getting to know Allison. When they first started dating, I was in Austin and saw Andrew, and he said, hey, I'm dating Allison Young, to which I already knew because I had seen the picture that was posted a moment ago that was stunning, and I just prayed in that moment he would never mess up. But he came and he's like, Allison moved to Dallas. It would be awesome if you could just say hi to her and meet her. And I mean, it's a testament to Andrew's care from the beginning for Allison. But little did I know in that moment when I
said, sure, totally, how beneficial it would be for me to get that friendship and to have you in Dallas with me. Dallas was a crazy place. It was a dry place. It was a hard place to move right out of college. And having Allison there is just someone who is very like-minded, someone who was in the business world. And everyone talks about how Allison is so sweet and caring, and she's so steadfast. But Allison is fierce, and Allison is strong, and Allison is so confident in who she is and who she is in the Lord. And I just got to see that so much, and I got to reap the benefits of that because she speaks that into those around her. And I got to be part of Bible study with Allison. And so in the moments that we were just going through, like, what the heck is life when you graduate college, we got to dig into scripture, and I just got to see Allison's hunger for the Lord and learning who the Lord is. And I just am so impressed by that. And I am so excited for y'all's marriage because for all the reasons that people have talked about, I think that the Lord is going to use you guys in incredible ways. You know, scripture talks about how the body has people with a lot of different gifts, and I think you see that just in your relationship. You guys have different strengths that just marry together so well. And while I'm very, very sad that you're leaving me for another Kate in Colorado, I am so excited for you guys and the adventure to come, and I just have no doubt that the Lord is going to be fruitful, and you guys are going to get to spread the love that everyone's talked about to so many people in Carbondale. I'm so excited.
Oh man, we love y'all. We step up. Y'all are special to me, special to everybody here. And I'm Ben, by the way, one of Andrew's redheaded stepchild friends. I've got countless stories that I feel like I could share, but I'll start with one. Andrew and Allison got to come down to Port O'Connor, Texas with me in April, and we had a heck of a time. Yes, they met me in Austin. We got to drive down together. We stayed at the Poco Loco Lodge. Jay, wherever he is, he's familiar. Not the nicest of establishments, you know, pretty nasty. But Allison was on board, all in, committed, just, you're always game. And I love that about you. Weather wasn't great, it poured on us. We ate nasty Mexican food. You took one bite out of your taco and you were like, yeah, it's good, it's fine, yeah, we're okay. And you were just all in it, and we had the best time. And that's what you guys are about. You're always just down to have a good time. You always show up, you always love the people you're around, and that's what makes y'all special. But I say that so he doesn't blow any casts on his honeymoon. We need his best. But no, Andrew, I love you, man. You've been such a good friend to me. You're so loyal. You're always there. You always find a way to show up. You always find a way to care for the people around you. And I'm honored and fortunate enough to be one of those guys. Through tough seasons in my life, through whatever it was, whether you're in Colorado or Austin, you always find a way to stay in touch and to catch up and to reach out. And it just shows what your heart's made of. You live with a free spirit, I think we all know that. And it's contagious. You know, we're called to live with this freedom that Jesus talks about. And you do that so well. It's contagious. We all feed off of it. And I just thank you for that. Al, you are just the kindest soul. You have the warmest heart in the world. You really do. Believe it or not, I've known Allison longer than Andrew has. I've known Allison since kindergarten, somewhat close. Yeah, I lived in South Lake for a while. Moved away in middle school. Go Travis. Yeah, come on.
That's right.
Yeah. Bleach the hair. Come on.
But yeah, I won't let you forget that either. But you were just the sweetest thing, and I'm just honored to call you a friend as well. You feel like a sister to me. You're just so genuine, you're so real, you're so easy to be around, and I just love that about you. So you guys you're leaders. We all look up to you, and we're fired up for tomorrow night. You love. The word fierce was said, the word reckless was said. And you guys are full throttle all the time. You don't hesitate, and it's just beautiful. So these two come together. It's going to be exponential for the power of the kingdom. We're fired up. You love the way Jesus did, and we all feel that. So I'm honored to be here and fired up for tomorrow night. And yeah, we love you. Cheers.
Hey, I'm Kurt. I want to echo what Stephanie Golick said just a minute ago about Andrew Gary living this lifestyle that is so bold and fun and extravagant and daring, and he's invited us all along on this ride with him. I'm his most cautious friend, and I know that we've heard from a lot of cautious friends tonight, but I have been described tonight as the dad of the group. I'm the guy who makes calculated risk adjustment returns in my head before I commit to doing anything. From a young age, I was the little boy that said, I'm not sure if this is a great idea, guys. Should we really be doing this? And then I went to preschool with Gary when we were very young, and then we disconnected for a while and got to know each other once again freshman year of college. And I found very quickly that Andrew Gary is the friend everybody wants. He's the friend that you hope to make when you're 18 years old, freshman year of college. He's the guy with the fun idea, and he's going to galvanize everyone around it. He's the guy who called me up on a random Tuesday and said, hey, let's skip class today and go skydiving. And to which I said, let me talk to my dad about that first. And he said, well, hey, worst comes to worst, at the end of the day, you and I are hanging out with Jesus. And I was like, well, I guess that's a good. I guess that's a win-win, like Greg Ryan said earlier. Yeah, Andrew is a guy who loves very extravagantly, as we've heard a lot tonight. He's also a guy who loves people very intimately as well. And it's tough to do both of those things, it really is. I think a lot of us who knew Andrew well in college can remember that he would handwrite letters all the time. And I lived with Andrew our junior and senior years in this house of 9 to 11 guys, and there were always Amazon packages on the porch from us buying all this stuff for ourselves. But I remember every morning I'd walk out of the door to go to class, I'd see William Whitehead's Wall Street Journal stack right there. I'd see all of McLean's Amazon boxes, and I'd see a stack of letters on our mailbox that were from Andrew, writing various people who he knew, some very well, some not so much, but just writing a kind word to people. And every now and then one of us who lived with him would find a sweet note on our pillow. And so, yeah, Garrett, it's such an honor to know you and to be your friend. You and I became close when I needed someone to push me outside of my comfort zone. And a lot of us tonight have been, just on the receiving end of a lot of love from you. And life is better when you have people who love you and push you outside your comfort zone. I thank you for being that person in my life. We used to sit on the back porch of our house in college and drink Lone Star and listen to Eric Church and talk about what it'd be like to have a beer with Jesus and whatnot, and really who we would end up marrying. And always wondered, oh my gosh, the person who marries Andrew Gary is gonna have to be able to keep up with him, and she's gonna be super bold and outrageous and fun and daring and full of life. And he's found that in you, Allie. And so we're just so thankful that you guys are taking this ride together. And I want to thank the Youngs and the Garretts for having us this weekend. It's so special to be here. And so thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank y'all so much for being here tonight. And we appreciate the words, and all we can say is we look forward to getting y'all married tomorrow and seeing what God does, because it's you have amazing things to do together. So we look forward to that. We have something broken. We have s'mores over here if anybody cares to grab those on the way out and go down to the fire pit downstairs. And if you want to continue the party out there, that'd be great. Appreciate y'all.